How's it going, guys? Hope you're all having a fantastic day. Today's build is something I've wanted to do for years. I have been waiting so long to get around to this project, but now that time has come. So what I have is an 18-inch, around 45 centimeters, Big Fig Jax Pacific R2D2. I think that's the full title. These were made a couple of years ago and since been discontinued. Now the reason I went for this specific one is I'm pretty sure that it's the largest R2 unit that's officially licensed, that you can commercially buy, of course. There are other R2 units that can do a bit more stuff, however they're a little bit shorter, a couple of inches, at least that's my understanding. So for this one that I purchased, it said in the description that the electronics didn't work. So before I can start the actual build, I'm going to put some batteries in, open it up and try and fix the electronics. After a while I found the problem. The positive wire for the head motor had snapped, so simply strip the wire and solder it back on. And for some reason it still wasn't working, so I opened up the head and found that one of the small buttons that acts as a sensor for the motor stop wasn't making a connection, causing the head to try and turn even when it had reached its maximum amount of rotation, and would not stop until the light and sound sequence was finished. So I simply pushed the button back into place and tightened the screw. And with these two small fixes, the electronics and the motors all work again. So a little bit of info on why I went specifically with a smaller R2 instead of building a full size one, besides the costs, of course. When I was like 8 or so, a year before Revenge of the Sith came out, there was a bunch of Star Wars toys and a really big R2D2, this one to be exact, and I immediately wanted it, but it was like $300 and it wasn't close to Christmas or a birthday, so my chances of getting it were in the negatives. And now, nearly 2 decades later, I'm an adult and I can buy whatever I want, and I don't really want a full-size R2. They're like 4 feet tall and I've still got nowhere to put the 6-foot Game of Thrones table I made. It sits in bubble wrap in the corner of the workshop, so until I've got more space I won't be doing larger physical builds. So with this R2 being around 45 centimeters tall, or about 57 when I'm finished, it can sit pretty much anywhere and not be a hassle. So anyways, with the backstory out of the way, I knew going into this project it was going to be quite a lot of work, so it will most likely be a 3-part series. For this video I'll be focusing on the head portion. I'm going to try and replace as much of the plastic parts with aluminum, starting with the 3 eye socket looking parts. I'll throw some aluminum on the lathe at an angle and then a straight knurl. Now because this is a custom droid, I'm doing an R4 unit, or known as Obi-Wan's Astromech. You may ask why? Well, I just prefer a red paint job over R2's blue. Oh, and the red paint will cover the silver plastic on the head, so either one of those reasons was good enough to make an R4 unit. And moving straight onto the aluminum inlay, making a full dome for the head would be practically impossible, even with the tools that I have, so the best option is to make all of the blue inlays out of thin aluminum and Dremel and sand them down so that they lay flat. Using the Dremel, I'm shaving down the plastic. On all the blue parts there's a small recessed line outlining the profile, so I was able to use that as a guide. It also made sure that when the aluminum was attached, the lines would look crisp instead of uneven around the edges. To get the aluminum to bond correctly to the plastic, I sanded it on the inside with a coarse grit sandpaper, then used super glue to secure it to the plastic and held it while it dried. Then I drilled some holes, and with the holes drilled, I would add some epoxy to the inside so that it would bond through the plastic directly onto the metal. Now on to the painting process. There was about 9 layers of paint in total to get to the finished red. 2 base coats, 1 gloss black, 1 gloss silver, 2 of an automotive red with a top layer of a candy red. Then finished with a couple of layers of clear coat before and after weathering. On the original, the small light on the head is a couple of different colours, namely green, white, blue and red. I haven't decided on what colour to change the red LEDs to just yet, but I did cast the LED cover in a mix between white and a light blue. For the silver band around the head, I'll just add some silver marker, then a clear coat. It blends perfectly with the weathered aluminum bits. So for the main eye, I'm going to use a wide-angled phone lens. You can get these for a couple of dollars online. However, I ruined mine just after I tried gluing it in, so I've had to order another one. So in the next video, I'll show what the eye looks like when it's finished with the lens in it. So now on to painting the main body. Again, the same paint layers as earlier, as I want all of the reds to match, obviously. Now honestly, the painting of the body was a disaster. First off, I missed one of the small blue details, so I had to go back in, remask and repaint just that tiny little bit. And then on top of that, there were these small red side details. They didn't stick to the white plastic at all. They simply peeled right off with the masking tape. I did sand the surface before and it still didn't adhere to it. The blue parts that were repainted are fine. They're durable, it's just the white plastic. Now, there are some ways that I could get it to stick if I really tried, but for now, I'm not sure I'll be adding these side details, just because of the trouble of having to remask the entire body. so I might try and hand paint them, but anyway, that will have to wait for another time. There's still so much to do. I still need to machine some parts for the main body, and the legs will require a lot of machine work. On top of that, I want to add more functionality and utility. I'm thinking of adding a thumb drive and a port so that it can act as a sort of hard drive. I also want to perhaps add a power bank so that it can be a charging station. If you have any ideas of some cool electronics that I can add into it, leave a comment and I might decide to add it. Aside from the electronics and the machining, I want to make a serving tray for the head, similar to the one seen in Return of the Jedi. However, I'll be doing my own custom design for that. So with all that said, thanks for watching guys. I hope to see you in the next build video. Have a good one. I see you've made it to the end. Why don't you subscribe and check out some of our other builds? Go on, what are you waiting for?